Have you ever noticed how easy it is to confuse wanting to do something with actually doing it? Sometimes our intentions are sincere, sometimes they even sound spiritual. But recovery eventually asks a harder question. What am I actually doing?
Welcome to Pastors in Recovery, a podcast dedicated to ministry leaders and pastors navigating the challenges of their own hurts, hang-ups, and habits. Hosted by John Hammond, a grateful believer in Jesus Christ and a pastor on the road of recovery. This space is here to remind you that God's grace is bigger than any struggle. Each episode brings real stories of redemption, practical tools for healing, and encouragement rooted in Christ's promise of renewal. You don't have to walk this journey alone. Let's explore how God meets us in our brokenness and brings light to our darkest moments. Welcome to the conversation.
Hello?
Hey Brian, it's James.
James. Hey man, how are you?
I'm good. I won't keep you. I was just thinking about you. No, nothing like that.
Good.
I just realized I haven't seen you at CR in quite a while.
And before Brian could answer, that familiar little voice inside his head showed up. Not conviction, not wisdom. Something much more reasonable.
Here we go.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
Everything okay?
Of course everything is okay. You're not falling apart. You're not in some crisis. Tell him you've been busy.
Yeah, everything's okay. We've just had a lot going on.
I get it.
That inner voice had become very good at sounding sensible.
See? Perfectly reasonable. Family, work, ministry, life. You don't owe anybody an explanation.
I just wanted to check on you.
I appreciate that.
We miss you.
They miss the old Brian. The leader. The guy who knew what to say. That's not really your place anymore.
Yeah, well, things have changed over there quite a bit.
They have.
It just doesn't feel quite the same.
Exactly, that's the reason. Not fear, not pride. The program changed.
I understand that.
And honestly, I've been thinking about checking out another group anyway.
Really?
Yeah, there's one at another church not too far away.
Have you gone?
Tell him you're going to. Not yet.
But I've been meaning to.
There. That sounds responsible.
Brian, can I ask you something?
Sure.
How long have you been meaning to?
A while.
He doesn't understand. You've done CR for years. You helped lead people through this stuff. You've taught these lessons. You know the material.
I'm not trying to pressure you.
I know.
I just know how easy it is to keep saying, I'm gonna get back. And then another week goes by. Then another month.
You are not some newcomer who needs someone to drag you into a meeting.
Sometimes the hardest thing about going back is just walking through the door.
Yeah.
Especially when you used to be the guy helping everybody else through it.
He did not need to say that.
You trying to make me eat humble pie now?
No, maybe just a small slice.
Very funny.
Brian, you don't have anything to prove.
Exactly, see? You don't have anything to prove.
And you don't have to be the leader.
Correct.
You don't have to know the answers.
Well,
you can just come in, sit down, and be a guy who needs recovery.
I know.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Then come sit with us.
I'll think about it.
good answer. Thoughtful, measured, no rash decisions.
Okay, but Brian?
Yeah?
At some point, thinking about going to a meeting isn't the same thing as going to a meeting.
Yeah.
Love you, brother.
Love you too.
Talk soon.
Yeah. Talk soon.
The room was quiet again, but Brian's head wasn't.
He means well. And he's probably right. You should go back. Soon. Maybe next week. You've had a busy week anyway. Tonight probably isn't the night.
Humble pie.
Exactly.
No. Not humble pie. Humble pride.
What?
That's what you are. You're the voice in my head that never sounds proud. You sound reasonable. You sound experienced. You sound mature. You even sound humble. But somehow, you always give me a really good reason to do tomorrow what I already know I need to do today.
You're overthinking this.
Maybe.
What are you doing?
Finding out what time the meeting starts.
You can go next week.
I know, that's what I've been saying. Tonight, I'm going.
Sometimes, humble pie is not humiliation. Sometimes, it is simply admitting that the door you keep intending to walk through is still open, and walking through it.
That little drama may have sounded familiar to some of you. Maybe not the exact conversation. Maybe nobody has called you lately and asked you why you haven't been at Celebrate Recovery or somewhere else. But perhaps you recognize the voice that says, "You're doing okay. You've been busy. You'll deal with it next week. You already know what to do. You've helped other people through this. You don't need to make a big deal about it." And before we know it, something we genuinely intended to do has been sitting untouched for months. That is what I want to talk about today. Intentions. And strangely enough, this episode started with a dream. Part 1, the sermon I didn't know how to preach. I don't normally build podcast episodes around dreams. I have plenty of strange dreams, I'm sure you do too, but most of them probably do not deserve a microphone. But this one stayed with me. In the dream, I knew I had one last sermon I needed to preach. I knew the title, Intentions. That was all I knew. I didn't have an outline. I didn't have 3 points. I didn't know the text. I just knew I needed to preach this sermon called Intentions. I remember talking to my dad and telling him, "Dad, I've got to preach this last sermon." I thought I had missed the Sunday morning opportunity, so I wondered if maybe I could preach Sunday night. And one of the church leaders happened to overhear me. He said something that stayed with me after I woke up. "It's not too late." They were still figuring out what they were going to do that night. And then he mentioned another possibility, some kind of radio station where I could get a slot and preach the message. So I woke up thinking, what in the world was that about? And then I thought, maybe the radio station is this podcast. There's only one problem. I didn't know what the sermon meant. So I began looking at the word. And then I began looking at my own life. And then it started getting uncomfortable. Part 2. Pastors are full of good intentions. Pastors know a lot about intentions. We intend to take a day off. We intend to spend more time with our spouse. We intend to be more present with our children. We intend to call our sponsor. We intend to get back into a recovery meeting. We intend to deal with that resentment. We intend to stop isolating. We intend to find somebody we can actually be honest with. We intend to take the vacation. We intend to go to counseling. We intend to slow down after Christmas, and then Easter, and then summer, and then after the building campaign, and then after the staff transition, and suddenly another year is gone. And the frightening thing is, most of those intentions were sincere. We weren't lying when we said them. We really meant them. But sincerity by itself does not produce change. James gives us one of the clearest recovery passages in Scripture. James 1:22 says, "Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says." That phrase grabs me. Deceive yourselves. James is describing a person who hears the truth and agrees with truth, but somehow mistakes agreement for obedience. And pastors may be especially vulnerable to this because we live around truth. We study it, we teach it, we preach it, we counsel other people with it. We can explain exactly what somebody else needs to do. And if we are not careful, our familiarity with truth can create the illusion that we are living the truth. But James says, don't just hear it, do it. Recovery lives in that moment, from knowing to doing, from admitting to acting, from intending to taking the next step. Part 3, when ministry makes action harder. Now, this is where I want to be careful, because sometimes pastors aren't stuck because they don't care. They're exhausted, they're wounded, they are overwhelmed, and some of us have spent decades living inside church systems. We've dealt with conflict, we've dealt with politics, expectations, criticism, people leaving, people fighting, people expecting us to fix things we could never fix. We've walked our children through the strange experience of being pastors' kids. We've carried other people's crisis while trying to keep our own families together. And some pastors listening right now are still faithfully preaching every Sunday, still leading, still showing up, still caring for people. But every Monday morning, they quit. Maybe not officially, but inside, they're done. Every Monday, I can't do this anymore. Then Tuesday comes, Wednesday comes, Sunday comes, and then they stand up and preach, and the cycle starts over. Maybe the only reason they haven't actually resigned is because this is how they feed their family. And if they did step away, they don't even know what they would do next. And sometimes I wonder whether, after years of ministry, we develop habits that make it difficult to receive the very things we spend our lives giving other people. Community, pastoral care, rest, accountability, grace, help. Remember Brian in the drama? James says, "You don't have to be the leader." And humble pride immediately says, "Correct." Then James says, "You don't have to know the answers." And humble pride starts to object. Well, that little interruption, it says a lot, because sometimes we don't mind admitting we aren't the leader anymore, but admitting we don't have the answers, admitting we need the chair instead of the microphone, that can be harder. Part 4, the two sons. Jesus tells a short story in Matthew 21. A father tells his first son to go to work in the vineyard. The son says no. Bad answer. But later he changes his mind and goes. And then the father tells the second son to go. The second son gives the right answer. Yes, sir. Good attitude, good words, good intention. And then he doesn't go. Jesus asks, which of the two did what his father wanted? The first one. That story dismantles something in us, because the second son sounded obedient. The first son eventually became obedient. And sometimes we pastors are very good at sounding like the second son. Yes, Lord, I know. I need to deal with that. I should call somebody. I need to rest. I need accountability. I need to address what's happening in my marriage. I know. But Jesus keeps bringing us back to the question, what did you actually do? Part 5. This is not condemnation. Wow, even saying those words, what did you actually do, feels condemning, doesn't it? But I want you to stop here, because this can turn ugly very, very quickly. And if you're listening to this already carrying shame, you may hear, see, you're failing again. And it's almost like this podcast is just reinforcing that. But listen, that's not what I want this episode to become. And I don't believe that is how God deals with us in recovery. Because in Romans 8:1, it says, therefore, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. You see, conviction and condemnation are not the same thing. Condemnation says, you failed. This is who you are. Now go hide. But conviction says, this needs to change. Come into the light. Condemnation pushes us away from God, and grace tells us the truth and draws us towards Him. And some pastors have become masters at hiding precisely because shame tells us our credibility depends on appearing healthy. That is dangerous. Part 6. I'm in this too. I need to say this as somebody standing in this message, not above it. There are things I have intended to do too. One has been getting my family more consistently connected with church. We watch church online from time to time. We have gone in person. We went on Easter, and I remember thinking, we need more of this. Let's get back into a rhythm. But that rhythm hasn't happened the way I intended. And there are reasons. Some of them are real. Church carries a lot of history for me. Decades of ministry. Expectations. Politics. People. Crowds. Anxiety. The strange internal pressure that can come from walking into a church after you spent so many years being the pastor. I'm still sorting through some of that. And Celebrate Recovery is another one. I've spent years in CR. I've led, I've taught, I've served. I've been involved in recovery in other ways too. I still do this podcast. I'm involved with pastors in recovery. I sponsor. I meet with people. So I'm not disconnected from recovery, but I have also been thinking about getting back into an in-person CR group, and I haven't done it. So I find myself asking, are these legitimate reasons? Are they avoidance? Is it anxiety? Is it disappointment? Is it pride? Probably some combination of things. And I don't think I have to solve all that before I can be honest about it. Part 7. Humble pride shows up again. And here's something almost funny. While writing an episode dealing with pride, I caught myself dealing with pride. I was thinking, what if pastors hear me say I haven't been attending church regularly? What if they hear I haven't been going consistently to an in-person CR group? Will they discredit me? Will somebody think, why should I listen to this guy? And suddenly, I wanted to explain myself really carefully. Make sure everyone knew the circumstances. Make sure I still sounded credible. And I realized, there he is again. Mr. Humble Pride. Not saying I'm better than anyone. Instead saying, protect your reputation. Make sure nobody misunderstands you. Don't let them think less of you. And some of that can generally be wisdom. We should care about integrity. Leaders should care about credibility. But sometimes protecting our image becomes more important than telling the truth. And recovery cannot flourish there. So remember the drama about Brian? Well, he finally says that an inner voice. He says to the inner voice, you don't sound proud. You sound reasonable. You sound experienced. You sound mature. You even sound humble. But somehow you always give me a really good reason to do tomorrow what I already know I need to do today. That's the problem. Pride rarely walks into recovery wearing a t-shirt that says, capital letters, Pride, pride. Sometimes it wears wisdom, sometimes it wears busyness, sometimes it wears ministry responsibility, and sometimes it even wears humility. Part 8, James chapter 4, verse 17. James gives us another hard verse. James 4:17, and if anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them. Oh boy, I'd sure love to soften that one, but we shouldn't. Because there are moments when we know, no, not wondering, not maybe, no. We know the call needs to be made. We know the secret needs to come into light. We know we need accountability. We know we need to apologize. We know we're exhausted. We know our family is paying a price. We know our marriage needs attention. We know our body is telling us to stop. We know we need help. And then there comes a point when endlessly intending to respond becomes disobedient. Not because God is cruel, but because he loves us too much to let us live forever in the gap between truth and action. Part 9, recovery is action. Celebrate Recovery has always emphasized something Scripture already teaches. Recovery is not merely insight, it involves action. James 5:16 says, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. Notice the movement. Confess, pray, healing then is connected to stepping out of secrecy. James 6:2 says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. But somebody has to let another person know there is a burden before it can be carried. So Ecclesiastes says 2 are better than 1 because when one falls, the other can help him up. But what does isolation say? I'll get up by myself. Recovery says, brother, I fell. Part 10, Maybe our intention is real, but so is our fear. This is really, really important here. If you're a pastor who keeps saying you're going to do something and haven't done it yet, I don't automatically assume you're lazy. Maybe you're scared. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you've been hurt. Maybe church has become associated with pressure. Maybe recovery has become associated with a season of your life and you're just trying to move beyond it. Or maybe you don't even know how to go from being the helper to being helped. Maybe you fear what people will think. Maybe you're afraid that if you tell the truth, something will unravel. Maybe you don't even know what life looks like outside the role you've occupied for years. Those things matter, but understanding why we're stuck is supposed to help us move, not build a permanent home around being stuck. Part 11, God works in the will and the action. Philippians 2:13 gives us the grace underneath all this. For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose. To will and to act. God cares about the intention. That desire to change may itself be evidence of his work in us. But he doesn't only work in the wanting, he works towards the doing. So perhaps the prayer isn't, God, make me stronger. Maybe it's, God, you know I want to do this. Show me the next faithful step and give me the courage to take it. That is a recovery prayer. Before we continue, I just want to take a quick moment to thank you for listening and being a part of this community. If this podcast has encouraged you or reminded you that you're not alone, I'd love to invite you to subscribe and leave a comment. That really does help us to reach more pastors, ministry leaders, and hurting people who need encouragement. If you'd like to support Pastors in Recovery, there's a link in the podcast description. Even a couple dollars a month helps us continue creating these episodes and reaching pastors walking through the recovery and healing. You can also find the music from this podcast by searching for Crashing Lyrics on Spotify, Apple Music, and other streaming platforms. All right, let's jump back in today's conversation. Part 12, One Step. This episode is not asking you to fix your entire life by tomorrow. That's another trap pastors fall into too. We think about everything that a ministry needs to be doing, all the ministry strategies, the 5-year plans, a complete solution. Sometimes recovery is much, much smaller. Call one person, attend one meeting, make one counseling appointment. Tell your spouse one truth you've been avoiding. Take one day off and actually leave your phone alone. Tell your board, I need help. Tell your sponsor, I am not doing well. Tell your doctor, something's wrong. Walk into the church. Sit in the back if you need to. Leave immediately afterward if that's all you can handle, but take the next step. Humble pride. Humble pride told Brian, you should go back. Soon. Maybe next week. That word soon is really dangerous because soon feels responsible. Soon sounds like a plan. Soon lets us feel as though something has already been decided. But soon has no date, no time, no action. Brian finally picks up his phone, looks up the meeting, gets his keys, and humble pride says, hey man, you can go next week. Brian says, I know. That's what I've been saying. That is the moment. Nothing changed until something changed. He got the keys. Part 13, the pastor who is about to quit. I especially want to speak to the pastor who's listening to this and then you're just like exhausted. You're still preaching. You're still leading. You're still making hospital visits. You're showing up. But somewhere inside you, you've already resigned 100 times. Maybe every Monday morning. You don't necessarily need to resign today. And I'm certainly not telling you that you should stay in a situation that is destroying you. But what I am saying is this. Don't keep intending to get help. Do something. Tell somebody the truth, not the polished version, not ministry has been challenging lately. Say, I don't know how much longer I can do this. There's a huge difference. Maybe the next action is not leaving ministry. Maybe it's finally allowing somebody to know what ministry is doing to you. Part 14. And to the pastor who has already left. Look, maybe you're like me in another way. Maybe you've already stepped down out of the role. Maybe you have discovered something strange. You thought leaving the position would automatically remove everything the position put inside you. But it doesn't. The expectations follow you, the habits follow you, the anxiety can follow you, the instinct to perform can follow you, the need to be useful can follow you, the shame can follow you. So recovery after ministry may involve learning things you never learned while you were leading. How to simply attend, how to receive, how to be anonymous, how to sit in the chair, how to need somebody, how to let God love you when you aren't producing anything for Him. That is recovery too. Part 15. What are you intending? So now I want to ask all of us, what have we been intending to do? Not what should our church do, not what should our spouse do, not what should the denomination do, not what should our staff do. What have we been intending to do? Go to counseling, return to recovery, find a spouse, tell the truth, take care of our health, address our anger, repair something with our children, rest, ask forgiveness, forgive, stop hiding, make the call. Maybe you already know. You don't need another sermon telling you what it is. Maybe what you need is action. Pastors, it's not too late. And this brings me back to the dream. I thought I had missed the opportunity to preach the sermon. And someone told me, it's not too late. I love that now, because this could have been an episode about everything we should have done. But the gospel is not primarily a message about what we should have done. It's a message about what God has done and what His grace makes possible now. Maybe you should have asked for help 6 months ago. It's not too late. Maybe you should have gone to counseling years ago. It's not too late. Maybe you should have addressed the problem in your marriage earlier. It's not too late. Maybe you should have gotten serious about recovery before the consequences became this painful. It's not too late. Maybe you haven't been inside a church except to preach in years. It's not too late. Maybe your recovery has slowly turned into something you teach instead of something you practice. It's not too late. God's grace does not erase consequences. It does not pretend delay didn't matter. But grace opens a door and then asks us to walk through it. So here's the question I'm carrying out of this episode. What is the one thing I've been intending to do that God is asking me to turn into action? Not 10 things, one. And then, what is the next honest step? Maybe it's picking up the phone. Maybe it's walking through the door. Maybe it's saying 4 words, I need some help. My name is John. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ who struggles with addictive behaviors and impulse control. And I'm not recording this episode from the finish line. I'm in it too. And I'm still sorting through some of my own intentions, some of my own anxiety, some of my own pride, and some of my own next steps. And maybe that's exactly why I needed to preach this sermon. And maybe somebody listening today needed to hear it too. It's not too late. Take the next step. Sometimes the thing keeping us from the next step doesn't look like pride at all. Sometimes it just sounds reasonable, mature, careful, maybe even humble. This is humble pride.
I know the words, I know the way. I know the things I'm supposed to say. I know how grace can set a captive free. I've told that story faithfully. But there are doors I still avoid, and quiet places filled with noise. I say I'm fine, I'll get there when I can. While something underneath me stands. It never sounds like arrogance, it never raises up its voice. It just gives me one more reason to delay the better choice. I can dress my fear in humble words and call it being wise. I can bow my head and still protect the image in their eyes. I can say I need your mercy while I'm still too proud to try. Lord, save me from the quiet sin I call my humble pride. I've been the one who held the light, who told the broken you can fight, who pointed weary souls toward home, then learned how hard it is alone. It's easier to give than take, to lead the prayer than say I ache, to tell another man just walk inside while I keep standing at the side. It never says you're better, it says you've been through this before. It says you don't need anybody while grace is waiting at the door. I can dress my fear in humble words and call it being wise. I can bow my head and still protect the image in their eyes. I can say I need your mercy while I'm still too proud to try. Lord, save me from the quiet sin I call my humble pride. Maybe humble pie is mercy, maybe weakness is the door, maybe saying I still need you is what surrender's really for. I don't need to have the answers, I don't need to lead tonight. I just need enough surrender to step out of where I hide. Not next week, not someday, not when everything feels right. If you're calling me to freedom, give me courage for tonight. I won't dress my fear in humble words or hide behind what's wise. I won't spend another season trying to protect my pride. I will bring you all the places I've been keeping locked inside. Lord, tear down every quiet wall of my humble pride. It's not too late, the door is open wide, so I'll take the next step and leave my humble pride.